This is more than just some video game. This is a survival guide, and it's an especially effective one at that. For the rest of my life, I'll remember that alien tentacles prefer the taste of wax fruit to that of human flesh, which bodes well for us when they mount their inevitable invasion. Obviously, the stakes are dire. Visit your grandparents, steal all their wax fruit, and prepare for the tentacle apocalypse with Maniac Mansion for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Released in 1987 for the Commodore 64, Maniac Mansion eventually made its way to several computer systems before hitting the platform that would make it a classic 3 years later. In 1990, after a long dispute with Nintendo over censorship of some of the game's content, LucasArts brought the game to the NES. Despite the modifications that had to be made, the game became a huge hit on Nintendo's console. Tons of copies were sold, a sitcom of all things was spawned, and the NES had what would become its greatest point-and-click adventure. The story is a delightfully comical send-up of 1950s B-real horror. A high school cheerleader has disappeared, and when her friends begin the search for her in Dr. Fred's creepy Victorian mansion, they discover the local scientist has gone completely mad. There are meteors, there are hapless teenagers, there are slimy alien tentacles without bodies, and Maniac Mansion's clever writing makes these things even funnier. Of course, story is very important to any point-and-click adventure game, but even more important is the pointing and clicking. And even though moving a cursor with a D-pad isn't exactly ideal, it isn't exactly awful either. Even today, Maniac Mansion remains very playable, very smart, and very enjoyable. You start the game by choosing 2 friends to join Dave, the missing girl's boyfriend. What's important to note is that each friend has different abilities. Some can play musical instruments that are scattered inside the mansion. One can repair electronic devices. As much fun as the game is, it's perhaps even more notable for its depth and variety. The mansion is just packed with objects and puzzles to solve, but it's all based on which characters you've selected. Your experience could be completely different with one trio as opposed to another. In addition, the game also has multiple endings based on which meddling kids you're using. It's impressive to play an NES game with that kind of open-ended feel, and that's one of the most memorable things about Maniac Mansion. Like many games from that era, however, there's a lot of trial and error to deciphering the secrets of the mansion. Most of the gameplay revolves around choosing an action from a menu at the bottom of the screen and applying it to an object in your inventory or your environment. Sometimes it's tedious, and other times it's like, how the fuck was I supposed to figure that out? The game has a lot of replay value thanks to its variety and depth, but to be fair, that also has a lot to do with the trial and error that's required just to figure out what to do. But you know, things like that were sort of inherent to the era, and although pointing them out is fair, holding them against the game isn't. Sure, there are a few problems as illuminated by decades of refinements, but that doesn't make Maniac Mansion any less of a point-and-click classic. So do what you have to do. Visit your local game store, head to eBay, buy Maniac Mansion. And I'm telling you, pick up some wax fruit while you're at it, you'll thank me in a few years.